let's get back to the beginning. What do you need to install Final Cut Pro 7 and Final Cut Studio 3? Well, you need a Mac Intel. That's all I see around here, so that's good. God, you can't tell you how good that feels to sit in a room. I worked at Microsoft for a number of years, so sitting here and looking at all these glowing apples is really cool. Here's where they start telling stories. This is directly from the website, by the way. 4 gigs of RAM minimum when working with uncompressed HD, which is what we're going to be working with. I have 16 gigabytes of RAM in my Mac Pro, and I get lots of coffee breaks. And I only work with clips that are 2 to 5 minutes long. Okay, I may pile on the effects a little bit, but anyways, need an ATI or NVIDIA graphics card with 128 megabytes of RAM minimum. 256 is, 512 is better. Minimum display of 1280 by 800. That's what we're running on right now, which scared me because I've never run it that low. But for those of you who are still back on Leopard, 5.6 works. You don't have to be on Snow Leopard. And QuickTime 7.6 DVD drive for installation unless you do a download. Here's where it starts getting interesting, and it'll really follow on to my next slides. It takes 4 gigs of disk space to install just the applications. It takes 46 gigabytes for the optional content, okay? Now that breaks down to 9 gigs for DVD Studio Pro templates, 7 gigs for motion templates, 22 gigabytes of sound and sound effects. Look, I'll let you form your own opinion about those and whether they're worth 22 gigs or not. And 8 gigabytes for those cool, fun live fonts in motion. You'll definitely want those when you move over to ESPN and you're doing all their titles and stuff. You'll need those. So. Now, I want to go back a little ways and talk about shooting, capturing in the field, backing it up, and making sure that you actually get back to the studio with it. So I'm going to show you my system. I shoot with the Nikon D7000s, great little cameras. Shock the heck out of me, but they just keep turning out great stuff. For a prosumer, quote unquote, camera, they're turning out some great files. Now, I'm fortunate in that those have dual card slots, okay, and they shoot to SDHCs, which is a first for me to have those little tiny, almost invisible cards, but I use the Delkin 16 gigabyte class 10 cards. Number one, because I've never had a problem with Delkin and their price point is, price to value for me is great, and they're lifetime warranties. But I can get about 100 minutes of 1080 shooting at 24 with reference sound from the camera on a 16 gigabyte card, okay? A little bit more, a little bit less, depending on content. So having 2 of those, I have an option of either shooting to one, overflowing to the other, shooting to one, backing up on the other, and getting my initial backup, which is what I do, okay? From there, I go into my Mac Pro laptop, sticking with the Delkin thing. I've got a little express card slot in it. And I use Lightroom 3.3 to import. I'll run through that here in a little bit. I'm a still photographer. I've got Lightroom. I've always had Lightroom. I've got hundreds of thousands of pictures in my catalog. I've got a naming convention and a file folder set up, done already. When I start adding motion, I don't want to have yet another system to maintain, yet another way to think about things. So with the advent of Lightroom 3 and its ability to support movies, I moved everything back over, and now this is the only system I use. So if I'm shooting with my D3 and I'm shooting stills, or I'm shooting with my D7000 and I'm shooting motion, it's all going into the same workflow. So
Lightroom 2 didn't have that capability.
No, this is an add-on for 3. Okay, from there I have, matter of fact, I don't know if I can pull these up without pulling the computer away. Can you still see me out here? Am I cool with that? These little portable drives, FireWire drives, I keep 2 of them. These are only 350s, but the one in my field kit are 500 gigabytes. Okay, So everything that goes into the laptop goes into those. Now I can use the second one either as an overflow, but if you look at the numbers here, 500 gigabytes will hold 50 plus hours of H.264, which is what we're shooting with these cameras. And I've never been on a trip yet where I've shot 50 hours worth of stuff. So I use my second one as a backup. And I also just came up with something about a month or so ago. I was turned on to Dropbox.com. So when I do get back to a hotel or do something where I have a connection, I have a nice big space up in the cloud. And I can put it up there and access from anywhere. So I can be peeking at it, looking at it and stuff and not worry about it. I only have 6 cards, 6 16 gig cards. So I tend to reuse them, you know, like 1 week photo safari stuff. So that works out nice. This ensures that my stuff's getting back to the studio. Okay. Then I get home. A few months back, I had to bite the bullet and upgrade my still system. This is basically my still system on steroids. I've got a regular Mac Pro, an old dual. I think it's like a 286 or something like that. But I've got 16 gigs of RAM in there, so it's not ready to be replaced yet. I have 4 internal slots, and I've always had it set up with a system drive and 3 image drives. I've got 125,000, 130,000 still images that I work with in there. I have external backups for the 3 here, and I have another one of these little portable drives as a boot drive because I have had crashes, which is one of the reasons I keep all my stuff off on my other drives. The change I made was adding a media drive, a 2 terabyte media drive. Now, one thing you do want to look at if you start adding these drives and you do a very basic system like this, is you want to make sure that they're, number one, FireWire or eSATA or something faster than that. USB is not going to get it for those. USB is fine for your backups. If you do an automatic backup like I do at night, that works out okay. 7,200 RPM minimum, okay. There are some 10,000 RPM drives out there, but I really didn't see the difference for the money. 5400s, like come normal on your drive, are not fast enough to work from. You can end up with drop frames. So thousands of frames going back and forth, back and forth. So 7,200 is a good value proposition, price point. If they're internal drives, they're going to be SATA drives, so you're okay there. It's your backups that you have to worry about now. Now, I stuck with FireWire just because I got a deal on getting 6 of these drives at once. You can, for your 4 backups or 6 backups, go with USB because you are just backing up to them. You're not working from them. It's storage. And the price difference between a 2 terabyte FireWire or eSATA and a 2 terabyte USB is pretty significant when you start talking about buying 6 or 8 drives at a time. Now, everybody keeps asking me, why don't I have a RAID system? Well, I'm so invested in this system that I really haven't had the time or need yet to get a RAID system. I've done a lot of reading about it, I've done a lot of investigating, but I haven't had the personal need. As I shoot more and more motion, I see myself going to a RAID system sometime this year, okay? And I'll be looking at that. So those of you who have already made that step for your still photography, congratulations. I still have to get there and make that investment. Okay. So we've got all these drives and, you know, we're getting all set up. How do we set up a folder and naming convention that allows us to find the stuff and work with the stuff down the road? This Motion, or Final Cut Pro, throws off more types of files than you would believe. All of a sudden, you have render files for your video, you have render files for your audio, you have your raw, you have your transcoded, you have your synced, you have your audio, you have, well, my system, I've ended up with 9 subfolders. This is my, at the top is my job folder. I use a naming convention that is year, month, day, underscore client, underscore job. The X at the end is the card number. This has worked for me for years and years and years as a still photographer, and by adding these 9 sub-boxes, subfolders in there, it's working out really well for me now. I only added the 2 under raw originals to show you how I would deal with separate cards from a shoot. So they would all go in the same client folder, and then, as a matter of fact, this template is included in the download. So you can just copy it and paste it and change it. But using, maybe it's because I'm getting older and my brain's starting to go, or my memory's starting to go, but I can usually remember about when I shot something. So doing it by date is great. If I put it out here and say, you know, the client was stock, and then the job was Japan. The client was Madonna. The job was the Confessions tour. If I've shot a number of different, like I used to shoot a lot for Kenny Loggins, and I've probably got 100 different shoots, but they're all by date, so I can immediately see, you know, where we were, what we did, and that last name really helped a lot. When I go into my folders, even though I've got 135,000 images in Lightroom right now, they're all by folder, and then they're by, you know, different drives. I can scan really quick and tell where everything is. Having it like this, I'm not accidentally putting transcoded files into my raw files, or my originals into my selects, or doing things that are going to really confuse you. I have a tendency to create a lot of test files when I edit. I'll get done with something saying, wow, I wonder what this really looks like other than this little window. So I'll burn a QuickTime and I'll throw it out there. Well, I throw them into my test folder. I used to just throw them into my big job folder, and then pretty soon it was, okay, which one was the test and which one was the real one, and which one's the project file, and which one's, you know, and I started getting really balled up. So I knew I had to just stop and say, okay, I got to take control of this and get this nailed down. This may seem a little anal, but it works, okay? And you'll see as we get started, when we start doing things, you could probably get through, you know, throw away a couple of these. If you don't use dualize and pluralize like I do, and sync sound, if you don't use a you know, dual sound system, you can get rid of that one real quick. You can add your stills and graphics to another one. If you have a better memory than me, put your stills, your tests, and your movies together. But 9 subfolders is a great way to start, and you can reduce from there rather than try to resort out everything later on and build up. Okay. We're speaking of creating footage. Now, for the class, I tried to do a couple of things that were realistic budget, you know, i.e. nothing, and work with friends. One's an Olympic athlete turned businessman turned motivational speaker. We'll be working with Jordan Malak. He's a 2-time Olympian, 17,000-time national champion canoeist. Because he's not a professional speaker, he had a 1-minute speech, but we had to break it up into 5 segments, okay? And then those 5 segments, we took 3 or 4 takes on each one before we got one that we were happy with, or thought we'd be happy with. So we created a lot of files. Now, our job is going to be to stitch all those back together, take the dual system sound and sync that up and get everything looking good. And then, and I did this on purpose, Greg, I really did, okay? I underexposed the files by a stop. And I recorded in my living room, a 2nd floor, right next to a road while there was road traffic, okay? Let me show you something. This is what we're gonna be doing.
You know, one of the first things I noticed.
This is underexposed. there's a road noise for those of you here live who can't hear this. And in 3 steps, when we first open up this file, we'll do a global correction like this and make it so you can stand looking at these files, for a couple of weeks and listening to them over and over. The sound difference is amazing. The simple noise floor filter that we build is pretty amazing. But this to me is practical. This is something this is one of the first things you need to know because reality does bite. It'll strike you, and you may come home with files that are a stop under a stop. Hopefully they're not a stop over, but anyways. The other one we're working with is that's right, you guys switched this to Keynote, didn't you? A 2-minute actress talking headshot. Okay, ever since I got one of these little cameras, I've been trying to figure out little ways to day-to-day monetize them, to justify them, and to back up my story to my wife that I could make more money with these things. Okay, I'm not Gail Tattersall, I'm not Vincent LaForêt, hell, I'm not even Chase Jarvis. I can't make movies. I don't intend to make movies, but I love going out with my animals and doing things, but buying thousands and thousands of dollars worth of gear without having a monetization scheme, causes some friction at home. So I was trying to come up with some simple things I could do with old clients. And one of them was the talking headshot. I have a lot of actors and actresses and models who have come in numerous times for headshots. And I always thought, wow, if you come in as this character one time and this character, why don't we just put together a short 1 or 2 minute little video for you where you can talk about yourself and you can show the different characters you can do. And I can charge you for it, okay? Simple thing to do, 1 session, boom, 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 probably get it done in a half a day. So I called up one of my old model friends and she was gracious enough to agree to come over and lend herself to this experience. Yaya is a real fun lady. She's a local actress.
Need an outspoken CEO who is very confident, very determined, and arrogant? Or maybe a bubbly gal who is very naive
and she goes back and forth like this through 4 or 5 different changes in the 2 minutes. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this one baseline video that she shot. It's a monologue. This one is 2 minutes long. She recites the whole thing. It's 1 take. We have dual system sound on it. Then we go away and we come back and we shoot little 15, 20-second clips on her different characters that we can do. But we also dug back into the archives and found 3 different characters that she was in still photographs. So we'll add those in. So over this 2 minutes, she can show 6 different people and have it on her website and up there so prospective casting directors or producers can see her and do that. So it's something that I've received good feedback from the actors and actresses that I've talked to about it who are very interested in it. They're looking for a marketing edge. So I'll do that. Okay. Then we're going to need a 1 minute 2 to 3 camera. Be flexible on this. Multicam is multicam. We can handle it to 100 and something cameras now in Final Cut Pro. It is so cool the way you can do this. Shoot 2, 3 different cameras. One can start and stop. One can run continuously. Shoot sound from the soundboard if you're doing a concert. Do dual system, triple system, and sync it all together. And then go back and forth in Final Cut Pro automagically just by punching the windows as the timeline moves and switching cameras and doing all of that. So we're going to play with that. That's going to be fun. So if you're creating this yourself, you're going to need about a minute of a 2 or 3 camera with dual system sound. I'm going to use a Zoom H4n and pluralize to put it all together. The last thing we'll be working with.
Oh, we had a couple questions I wanted to roll back on. We had someone asking what a dual system audio is. What dual system audio is.
Okay, and if they could hold on to that for a second, I'll show them when I walk through the gear here in a second. I'll show them. But basically, dual system audio is, okay, let's be honest. I don't know if any camera manufacturers are listening or not, and I know Nikon probably is. Camera sound sucks, okay? It's a little tiny omnidirectional microphone on this, right next to these, you know, stabilized, motorized zoom lenses. That sounds like crap. If you could have heard what Jordan sounded like at the beginning, that was a camera microphone. As Jordan morphed into the retouched, slightly retouched one, that great, clear, bell-like sound was from a little $299 Zoom H4n recorder that I was recording with at the same time the camera was. And then using software, I synced the two of those together and threw out what I call the reference sound, the soundtrack from the camera. That help? Okay. Where was I? Did I mention the 4 15-second various shots you'll need? For different effects and filters and stuff. We're going to do some speed changes. So the simple thing to shoot for people who don't have a lot of time would be a clock face. You know, just let it run for a little bit. We can speed up and slow down the second hand. That's the easiest way to see how the controls work, because we're not just going to apply these filters and apply the effects. We're going to go up into their guts and see how to massage them and adjust them and things. So you have a knowledge of how they work inside too. Color balance, I have some underwater footage, you know, and the red disappears as you get below 30 feet. So it becomes blue. It's tough to white balance if you didn't have a red filter on there. So I'll be doing some basic color balancing with those. Emma is electronic makeup artist. It's a great example of a typical third-party plugin. So if you have a headshot or a talking head or something like that, and you didn't have a makeup budget or somebody had a breakout that day, we'll show you how a simple thing like this, you know, can really enhance the quality of your stuff. And like I said, Sheffield Softworks has donated a copy of this, so we'll be giving a copy of that away.